May 27, 1962, Centralia, Pennsylvania. 5 volunteer firefighters are doing their annual cleanup of the town landfill before Memorial Day. The dump is in an old strip mine pit next to the Oddfellows Cemetery. They piled the garbage in one corner, light it on fire, and let it burn like they've done in previous years. Then they spray it down with hoses and go.
But this year, something goes horribly wrong. The fire doesn't go out. It finds an unsealed opening in the bottom of the pit, a 15-foot hole that nobody knew was there. And that hole leads directly into the vast labyrinth of abandoned coal mines beneath Centralia. Within days, the fire is beyond reach. Within months, it's spreading through the underground tunnels. Today, 62 years later, that fire is still burning. It's 300 feet deep, covers 8 miles, and could burn for another 250 years. This is Centralia, the American town that's been on fire since 1962. Centralia wasn't always a ghost town. In fact, for over a century, it was a thriving coal mining community. The first mines opened in 1856. By 1890, population peaked at over 2,700 people. The town had 7 churches, 5 hotels, 27 saloons, 2 theaters, a bank, and 14 general stores. It was built on anthracite coal, the hardest and cleanest burning coal in the world. 95% of all anthracite coal in the United States comes from northeastern and central Pennsylvania. Centralia sat right on top of some of the richest deposits. But coal mining is dangerous. The tunnels beneath Centralia became a massive underground maze. The Locust Run Mine, Coal Ridge Mine, Hazel Dell Colliery, Centralia Mine, Continental Mine, all connected underground in ways that nobody fully mapped. And as demand for coal declined after World War I, mines started closing. By the 1960s, most were abandoned. But here's the problem. When you abandon a coal mine, you're supposed to seal every single entrance with non-combustible material. That's the law. It prevents exactly what happened in Centralia. But enforcement was lax. Some openings were missed, and one 15-foot hole in that strip mine pit was never sealed. So on May 27, 1962, when those firefighters lit that dump fire, they accidentally ignited a coal seam that connected to miles of underground tunnels filled with fuel. The borough council realized something was wrong within a few days. They tried to put it out. They brought in bulldozers to dig out the burning area. They poured water down boreholes. Nothing worked. By June, smoke was rising from multiple locations. The fire had already spread beyond the dump site. Over the next 20 years, Centralia became a slow-motion disaster. The fire moved through the underground mines, following the coal seams in multiple directions. And here's what makes coal fires so devastating. Coal burns slowly and steadily. It's not like a forest fire that burns fast and burns out. Coal can smolder for centuries. It produces carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. It generates intense heat, sometimes over 900 degrees Fahrenheit. And in Centralia's case, it had access to essentially unlimited fuel. The coal seam beneath the town was part of a deposit estimated at 25 million tons. The first signs were subtle. Gardens that stayed warm all winter. Snow that melted on certain sidewalks but not others. Then it got worse. Smoke started seeping up through cracks in the ground. Basements filled with poisonous gases. The pavement on Route 61, the main highway through town, began to crack and buckle from the heat below. Sinkholes appeared. In 1981, a 12-year-old boy named Todd Domboski was playing in his grandmother's backyard when the ground suddenly opened beneath him. He dropped into a sinkhole 12 feet deep, filled with steam and carbon monoxide. He barely escaped by grabbing onto tree roots. That incident made national news and became the tipping point. The government tried multiple times to stop the fire. In 1962, they attempted to dig it out. Cost $20,000. Failed. In 1963, they dug a massive trench to contain it. Cost over $500,000. Failed. In 1969, they tried drilling boreholes to vent the gases and cool the fire. cost millions more, failed. In 1978, they installed a
fly ash barrier underground, basically a wall to stop the fire's spread. It worked for about a year, then the fire broke through. By 1983, the federal government gave up. The Office of Surface Mining calculated that completely excavating the fire would cost over $600 million and require removing most of the town anyway. Congress decided it was cheaper to just move the town.
people. They allocated $42 million for relocation. Residents were offered buyouts for their homes. Most accepted. Some didn't want to leave. These were people whose families had lived in Centralia for generations. Their churches were there. Their ancestors were buried in those cemeteries. They didn't want to abandon everything because of a fire that, for some residents, still seemed distant. But the government wasn't asking
Anymore. In 1992, Pennsylvania Governor Bob Casey invoked eminent domain on every single property in Centralia. Every building was condemned. The entire town. In 2002, the U.S. Postal Service discontinued Centralia's zip code. In 2009, Governor Ed Rendell began formal eviction proceedings against the remaining holdouts. Today, only about 5 people still live there, and they're allowed to stay until they die. After that, the state takes the property. Walking through Centralia today is surreal. Most of the buildings are gone. Streets lead to empty lots where houses used to stand. The few structures that remain are condemned and crumbling. Route 61, which used to run through the center of town, is now abandoned and closed. The pavement is cracked and buckled, with steam rising through the fissures. Graffiti covers the highway. It's become known as Graffiti Highway, a strange tourist attraction where people leave spray-painted messages. The ground is warm to the touch in places. Trees are dead or stunted from the toxic gases. And if you know where to look, you can see smoke venting from the ground, wispy white plumes rising from the earth. The fire is still down there. Still burning, still moving. At its current rate of spread, about 75 feet per year along 4 separate branches, it covers approximately 8 square miles. It reaches depths of 300 feet. Scientists estimate it could burn for another 250 years or more before running out of coal. This isn't speculation. Coal fires can burn for centuries. There are coal fires in China that have been burning for thousands of years. There's one in Australia that's been going for over 6,000 years. Centralia's fire is nowhere near done. What makes this even more tragic is that it was completely preventable. The 1958 Pennsylvania law that outlawed setting dump fires was specifically passed to prevent mine fires. Everyone knew the risk, but Centralia had been burning its dump the same way for years without incident. Nobody thought to check if the current location had an unsealed mine opening. And once the fire started, government response was too slow and too cheap. Every attempt to stop it was underfunded. Every solution was half measures. By the time anyone took it seriously, it was too late. The story of Centralia isn't just about a fire. It's about government failure, corporate irresponsibility, and environmental devastation. The coal companies that mined under Centralia for a century didn't properly seal the mines when they closed them. The state didn't enforce regulations. The borough council didn't follow the law about dump fires. And when the disaster struck, the response was inadequate until it became cheaper to destroy the town than save it. It's also a story about